North Carolina is known for being cheap, and many people come down here for the opportunity for home ownership, and many come down to invest in real estate in this state. However, it being affordable and a good investment, is that really true? It's easy to own in North Carolina, but is it really worth it? So, North Carolina has many rural towns, small cities all throughout the state. And let's take Eaton, North Carolina, right? So let's say you find a house in Eaton, North Carolina for $15,000, and then you put $10,000 into it to fix it up. Now that property is worth, let's say, $35,000, and it rents out for $400 a month. Now, for some people, you might say, great, that's a good investment. Real estate is cheap. I can buy houses cash. But why are those houses cheap? I want you to always remember that real estate is local. So those houses that are worth $35,000 today, they were probably worth $35,000 15 years ago, and they will probably be worth $35,000 10 years from now. Being that real estate is local, when you see cheap real estate, that's because the local economy only allows them to charge that for real estate. So these towns are normally depressed and poor, so therefore the good job in town might be the chicken factory that starts off at $14 an hour. An average salary in these places could be $35,000 a year. Okay? So with that being said, that's why your real estate is cheap, because the local economy is just not that good. All right? So yeah, if you just want to buy based off returns and you do not care about the property appreciating, this could be, a good deal for you. And remember, that $35,000, that's in a good economy. If the economy is not good, then it might be hard to get that $35,000 in those areas, which you'll notice is more landlords than renters. So you have to sell that to another landlord. So to get out, you might, have to do some type of creative strategy to sell it. But overall, cheap real estate equals a local economy that's not doing that well. So please keep that in mind before you buy cheap real estate for the sake of it being cheap. I literally know somebody from North Jersey that they bought a house in some small town in North Carolina for $20,000 because it was only $20,000. And the house, I believe, if it's fixed up, probably rent for like $500. They took years to fix up the property, but they finally got it fixed. They probably finally got it rented, and then realized that the town was poor. So please look into that before you buy your real estate. Do research in the local economy. Jobs, people relocating, that increase real estate prices. Tax sales. Okay, so in North Carolina, when they have tax sales in some of these places, yes, you can get houses for $3,000, $5,000, land for $1,200 and $1,500. But please keep in mind that the owner has a 5-year redemption period, and you probably won't be able to get title insurance for 5 years. What does that even mean? What is title insurance? Title insurance is when the title company that you're dealing with insures the title and saying, hey, listen, I guarantee this title is good. So if any claim happens against this property, I'll pay out. Either the claim or the person will get their money back. And in some cases, they get to keep the property as well. So with that being said, if you buy a house at the tax sale for $5,000 and you put another $5,000 to fix it up, and then you rent it out for, $550 a month, okay, and the homeowner comes and say, hey, they get an attorney, they go through the court process and they take the property back. Well, they only got to pay you what you paid for at auction plus interest. And if they have that, they can get the property back within that 5-year period. So, and you're just paid back what you paid for the property. So the money you used and whatever you fixed up, improvements, you don't get that back. If you buy land at a tax sale in North Carolina, let's say you buy some land for $750 at the tax sale and you build a house on it. 3 years later, the original owner say, hey, listen, I was never served. So being that I was never served, I want my property back. They go get an attorney, they will get their property back. Now, they get the property with the house on it, and that mortgage still remains in your name, and you still owe your lien holder. That is correct. So they can get the property back. So please keep that in mind when buying tax sales. The original owner has 5 years to come back and get their property. Now, of course, a lot of people don't know that, but believe me, it happens more often than people talk about. North Carolina is full of rural areas where you can get cheap land, but cheap land may not be worth it. Let's say you go somewhere, you get some land for $3,000 in a neighborhood where the houses are worth $40,000 tops, all right? And you can get land for $3,000. Well, that land, is it really worth building a house that's going to cost you $100,000? It doesn't make sense to put a $100,000 house into a $40,000 neighborhood, okay? You know, so you have to think about things like that. Now, I did that buying cheap land in a major city that had job growth because the city had plans for those areas. So if the city don't have plans for those areas, if jobs are not coming, if people are not relocating to that place where you can get a lot for $3,000, you better rethink, investing in, like, what are you going to do? What is your long-term strategy? Is your long-term strategy hoping to that one day it will improve? Because that strategy might be based off hope and one day may never come. I bought land for people that they might have bought the land 20 years prior for $3,000, then I bought it for, $4,000 or $5,000 from them. Remember, they had to pay property tax and everything over the years. So for them, it probably wasn't a good investment. But for me, I had perfect timing because I knew that, hey, the city is working on improving these neighborhoods. So one day this land is going to be worth much more. So that's what I dealt with, literally, but I'm in a major city and we will get to that. When buying land, you want to ask, is the city water and city sewer or well and septic? Okay, so if a property has city water and city sewer, that's a great thing. That means that you tap into the local municipality sewer line and you tap into their water line, okay? Now, if you call and they say, yo, we don't offer that, city water or city sewer, well, then what you have to do is you have to get a perk test. You have to make sure the dirt is good because it needs well and septic, okay? So what is well and septic? Well, a septic tank is where your wastewater goes. So therefore, your septic tank, it needs its own space and it needs an area where it can breathe at. And it has to be put in good dirt. Now, that's why the perk test is done, and the perk test is done by the county, okay? Normally, it's done by the county. They come out and they test the dirt. Some counties are easier to deal with than others because some counties will make you mark the spot where you plan to put the septic tank, and they got to test that dirt. And if that dirt is no good, well, the land is no good. You do have the option to hire a septic engineer. And after you hire the septic engineer, they will determine what the solution is. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Now, well water, they will have to dig until they hit the well source in the land. Now, some people say well water is the best water you can get. I met somebody that said their father passed from drinking well water because it was contaminated and he got heart disease from drinking the water. When you have well water, you're responsible for testing your water. City water, they do that. They put treatment in the water to make sure everything is good. But when you got well water, you're responsible for doing your annual test to make sure your drinking water is fine. Okay? So that's something to think about. A septic tank, that's your wastewater. You're responsible for draining that septic tank every X amount of years, whatever that is. So you have to drain that to get the waste out of the septic tank. So that's another thing you need to keep in mind. All right. Make sure you ask that when you buy land, because North Carolina is full of rural areas and little small towns, whereas well water and septic may be a normal thing. Last but not least, let's uncover North Carolina being cheap. Well, North Carolina may be cheap and affordable, but Charlotte, North Carolina, where I am at, is not. Medium home price is around $410,000, I believe. Raleigh-Durham area is not cheap, okay? Wilmington, North Carolina, which is a beach town, is not cheap. So don't think that you're gonna go to a major city down here and it's just gonna be really cheap and you're gonna take over and you're gonna have home ownership. Because believe me, when you live in Charlotte, you meet a lot of people that thought they were going to do all these big things and realize that Charlotte is not cheap, and you need to have a good paying job or some good income to really thrive down here. All right. So I read an article that if you live in Charlotte, North Carolina, to live comfortably, meaning that your needs is met and you want to enjoy life, you need to make a minimum of around $100,000. Now, we know that for some people that may be far-fetched, but it's the reality. Like, Charlotte is not cheap, okay? $300,000, you're probably going to be living in a neighborhood that does not have good school zones and could be considered the hood. And it's a very small house, probably around 1,000 to 1,200 square feet. So please keep that in mind in Charlotte. Charlotte area, Raleigh-Durham, you spend $1 million, you could be living on the outskirts of downtown on a normal sized lot, all right? And you have to send your children to private school, so spend the extra $10,000 because you want them to have a great education. Because listen, baby, it's expensive in Charlotte, it's expensive in Raleigh-Durham, it's expensive in Wilmington. And the thing now is everybody wants to live near downtown. So near downtown, these areas can run anywhere from 300K all the way up to $1 million plus, sometimes even more than $1 million. All right. So keep that in mind. North Carolina is cheap, but Charlotte is not cheap. Charlotte, home of the Hornets, home of the Carolina Panthers. All right. It's not cheap. Raleigh-Durham, and Raleigh's the capital. Hey, listen, it ain't cheap out there. Wilmington's a beach town, so it's not cheap out there. So do your research before you move to North Carolina or think you're going to invest. All right. I met investors down here who says, yo, I had no idea it was this expensive and the cost was going to be this much. I'm going to move my investments to another state. All right. So please, do your research first. In the meantime, check out this video next to me. Do not invest in South Carolina, man. Them property taxes will hit you. Hey, listen, I'm Nasa, aka the real estate guru. I'm not a guru, I'm a duru because I actually do this business. Peace.